Hello. We're continuing our project of the nightstand. The next thing we want to do is to prepare. We've glued up our two side assemblies, and the next thing we want to do is do the pocket holes. These are 2 inches in from the edge here and from here. This will be the way we attach the base to the top, or the top to the base. Also, you see that I still have my tape on here. This makes sure as the assembly process goes along that I keep my side, maybe the less attractive wood, to the inside, and always referencing it to the legs and how they're attached, keeping everything in line and organized. That helps me just remember that as I'm assembling. So we've got the pocket holes here on our side assemblies. Then we have our back assembly. Again, we're pocket holing it. Now, I usually like to do the pocket holes before I make the assembly. But in this case, with everything being flush, I could go on after the fact using my pocket hole jig and place the holes. So I've got all this set. The only other thing I want to do is my bottom piece, which is this piece right here. We've prepared it. We made this out of, as I was telling you earlier, that these side assemblies were one solid piece. But this, because it's a little wider, I glued it up. So it's 2 pieces put together. I'd like to show you how that works. This is the beginning of how the panel is made, with several different pieces of wood. I use both clamps on the top side, or the bottom side, excuse me, and the top side. That keeps the pressure even so the panel does not cup. Also, when you're putting a panel together, it's very important, because many people are familiar with using plywood or OSB, a manufactured piece of material. This is nature at its best, or worst, because it is going to do what it wants. It's going to warp. It's going to change size. It may change from summer to winter as much as 1/8 of an inch. But if you know how to work with the wood, you can, and be very successful and create a beautiful project. So what you're doing here when I'm building this panel, I'm looking at the end grain and making sure that the radius of the growth rings would be coming this way. Then the next board would be going the opposite way, continue opposite and opposite. This way it evens out the pressure, and so your panel always will stay flat and square. And so that is how we started with the project, with the panel. And that's how you do any panel, no matter what the project may be. And then you come out with the end result here. Now you'll notice, and I say this because it's one of my pet peeves. The difference between a project that really shows you cared about it and one that you just rush through is this very fact. These are my layout lines for my pocket holes so that I could use a jig and know where I put them. We don't leave those there. That is very important. If you did, it just looks like, well, I wanted to rush on to the next thing. But each step is very important, and it shows that you cared about your project. So we want to sand that out. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to step over and hook up my air. Here we go. Well, I'm again using my orbital sander. There's other ways to do it, either by hand or the electric sander, as I showed in the previous. Some people will say, well, why don't you just use the eraser end of the pencil? Well, that leaves a residue, so when you finish it, that residue messes up your finish. This way, it's a clean way. You know that your project is ready to go. And the last step, yes, we use the power equipment, but we come back with the good old hand sander. and our block. We make sure that any swirl marks are out of the project. Again, this is showing you cared about what you did. So we're ready to go now, and we have our parts. We have our side assemblies, we have our back, and we have our bottom. So we've got this piece, we've got this piece, and our very back that you may not be able to see. But you can tell how it will turn out. So the last step in our preparation is doing putting the holes that will attach the front rail to our top. And here we have, I've doweled it already, and all I need to do is drill a hole with a pilot, which will allow me to again attach this rail, which will be part of the base unit, to our top. And we're ready to start assembling.